Picture this, right? You're back in high school. You
Yeah.
spend, uh, countless hours, late nights, skipping parties, just pouring your absolute heart and soul into coding a computer game.
Oh man, the classic high school passion project.
Exactly, a castle adventure game, to be exact. So you finally finish it, you present it to your peers, waiting for the applause, and crickets.
Ouch.
Complete, utter rejection. Like nobody wants to play it at all.
It is a brutal feeling. And, it happens to be the real life origin story of Jake Knapp,
Right.
who, alongside John Zeratsky, went on to write the book we're unpacking today.
Which raises a question that kind of haunts anyone building something today. I mean, for you, the listener, how often do we pour our time, our capital, our emotional energy into a project only to wake up 6 months later and realize we built something nobody actually wants?
It happens way more often than people admit.
Totally. So today, we're diving into their framework for solving this from their book, Click: How to Make What People Want. These are the same guys behind the Google Ventures design sprint, which, companies like Slack and Airbnb use. But this time, they're going upstream.
Yeah, they are targeting the phase before you even know what the product is. Because, in an era where anyone can spin up a sauce tool or a YouTube channel in like a matter of days thanks to AI, the bottleneck isn't how to build anymore.
Right, the code is cheap now.
Exactly. It's what to build. The market is just completely saturated. So to cut through that noise, they developed what they call the foundation sprint.
And that's a 2-day thing, right?
Yeah, a 2-day psychological and strategic process. It's designed to replace basically 6 months of chaotic, aimless strategy meetings.
Okay, to understand why a highly structured 2-day sprint is even necessary, we have to look at the psychological horror show of the traditional corporate kickoff.
Well, the kickoff.
Yeah. The book uses this hilarious analogy. They say the old way of developing product strategy is like trying to assemble IKEA furniture by tossing all the parts, an Allen wrench, and like a dozen live squirrels into a broom closet.
Shutting the door and just hoping for the best.
Yes, just hoping a bookshelf comes out.
It paints a picture, but honestly, if you look at how standardy group brainstorming works, it's not far off. From a behavioral psychology standpoint, unstructured meetings are just a disaster.
Why is that, though? Just too many egos.
Egos, sure, but also cognitive biases. You immediately run into the anchoring effect, where, the first idea mentioned drags the rest of the conversation toward it.
All right.
Then you have the high PPO effect, the highest paid person's opinion.
Oh, I've lived that. The CEO says, hey, we need an AI chatbot. And suddenly every single idea on the whiteboard revolves around AI chatbots, whether it actually makes sense for the user or not.
Exactly. It turns into a political cage match. People churn out these massive unread slide decks, and decisions are just made based on who had the most stamina in a 3-hour meeting.
So what's the antidote to the squirrel-infested closet?
The authors say it's a small team, maximum 5 people, and one of those people must be the designated decider.
Okay.
They use a method called note and vote. Instead of loud, messy brainstorming, the team sits in a room and works in total silence.
Total silence.
Yep. Everyone writes their ideas on sticky notes, posts them on the wall anonymously, and then they just vote with dot stickers.
Okay, wait, let me push back on this for a second. If the decider, say, the project lead ultimately makes the final call, regardless of how those dot stickers land, that kind of seems like a dictatorship disguised as the democracy.
I see why you'd say that.
Right, like why even bother having the team vote if the decider can just overrule everyone?
Well, the goal isn't a binding democratic election. It's about rapidly visualizing the team's best thinking. By working in silence, what they call work alone together, you completely bypass those cognitive biases of groupthink.
So it's about the data, not the debate.
Exactly. The decider gets an objective heat map of opinions in 5 minutes, rather than spending 3 weeks arguing in circles to figure out where everyone stands. It completely separates ego from the ideas.
That actually tracks. You get the benefit of collective intelligence without all the social friction. So let's look at how this plays out chronologically. Morning of day 1 of the foundation sprint, the team has to nail down what they call the basics.
Right.
And the book insists on using plain English,
Right.
stripping away all the corporate jargon. So the first basic is the target customer. You can't say like B2B enterprise synergies.
No, absolutely not.
You have to identify a stressed out human being, like exhausted HR managers who hate spreadsheets.
Because human-centered design dictates that businesses don't buy products, right? People do. There's always a person behind the screen. And once you define that specific human, the second basic is identifying their urgent problem.
The bleeding neck problem.
Exactly. It has to be a high-friction pain point.
Now, I wonder about that insistence on high friction. Because if a product is, say, free and incredibly easy to use, I'd assume the friction of the problem wouldn't matter as much. Why does it have to be a bleeding neck problem?
Because human behavior always defaults to the path of least resistance. We see this in behavioral economics or, frameworks like atomic habits.
Right. James Clear.
Yeah. Trying any new product costs time, energy, and cognitive load. If the problem you are solving isn't causing them active, literal pain in their day-to-day, they simply won't absorb the switching costs to use your solution.
Even if it's free.
Even if it's completely free, successful creators, they don't invent desires. They find intense frustrations and they alleviate them.
Wow, okay. That brings us to the third basic, which is the advantage.
Hmm.
This is like looking in the mirror and identifying your team's unique capability, motivation, and insight.
Yes.
Because sure, anyone can copy your code now, but they can't copy your unique insight into a specific subculture, right?
Exactly. Insight is your proprietary understanding of the problem. Like, if you are building a sauce tool for independent creators and you personally spent 5 years running a struggling YouTube channel,
You get it.
you understand the emotional toll of the algorithm. A massive corporate competitor simply doesn't have that visceral advantage.
Which leads really nicely to the fourth basic, the competition. You have to name the 800-pound gorilla in your market. But the book points out something super interesting. The biggest competitor is often just a workaround, the do-nothing option.
Doing nothing is a formidable competitor. If your customer's current alternative is just using an Excel spreadsheet or, a notebook or just ignoring the problem entirely and they are fine with that, your problem isn't urgent enough.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so by the end of the morning, we've defined the human, their bleeding neck problem, our unfair advantage, and the giant gorilla we are fighting. We know the landscape.
They do.
The challenge for the afternoon of day one is figuring out how to stand out in that landscape, or how to escape what the authors call loserville.
I love that term because the immediate temptation, once you know the basics, is to build a slightly better version of the 800-pound gorilla.
Right, you think, oh, we'll build a team chat app like Slack, but with 10% faster load times.
Which is a trap.
I've actually lived this trap. Years ago, a friend and I tried launching a productivity app. We looked at the market leaders and thought, well, ours will just have a cleaner interface and color-coded tags.
How'd that go?
We spent months on it. We launched. Nobody cared. We were just a clone with a different paint job.
You were in loserville. In a noisy market, people just ignore incremental improvements.
Yeah.
The psychology of attention requires radical, immediately obvious differentiation for a customer to actually click with your product.
To avoid that fate, the book guides the team to map out classic differentiators. So things like being faster, easier, free, simpler, alongside custom differentiators based on your unique advantage. And they use a 2x2 matrix for this.
Right.
Now, normally, I feel like a 2x2 chart in a corporate deck is just useless filler to make some consultant look smart. But here, it's used aggressively. You physically plot your competitors on the X and Y axis.
Because the strategic goal is to carve out the top right quadrant entirely for yourself.
It's almost like gerrymandering a political district. You are drawing the lines of the graph, picking the specific differentiators so that you stand completely alone in the top right.
And by doing that, you shove every single one of your competitors into the remaining L shape of the graph. That L shape is loserville.
That is brilliant.
It is, but there is a crucial catch to this matrix mapping. You must be brutally honest about your actual capabilities.
Oh, you can't fake it.
No, you can only claim that top right quadrant if your product can actually deliver on those promises. If you claim to be the simplest, most AI-driven email client, but it takes, a 40-page manual to set up, you destroy customer trust instantly.
Right.
It's the difference between marketing spin and actual product truth.
So day one wraps up by taking all this alignment, the customer, the problem, the radical differentiation, and synthesizing it into a single page called the Mini Manifesto.
Yes.
You stick it on the wall, and it becomes your North Star. Every future feature is judged against it. Like, if your manifesto claims you are the fastest tool on the market, and an engineer suggests adding a mandatory 5-step profile setup.
The manifesto kills that idea instantly.
Exactly.
It is a really powerful alignment tool. It answers the who and the why, but, notice what we haven't done yet.
What's that?
We haven't actually decided what we were building.
Oh, man. That's the missing piece. A manifesto is great philosophy, but you can't sell a philosophy. You have to translate that into an actual approach, something a user can click. And that's what day two is for, the pre-pivot, And the magic lenses.
The term pre-pivot is essential here. The standard startup narrative is build a product, launch it, realize it's the wrong approach, and then pivot 6 months and $1 million later.
The classic lean startup pivot.
Yeah. But the foundation sprint forces you to conceptually pivot before writing a single line of code.
So day 2 starts by brainstorming up to 7 wildly different approaches to solving the problem. Let's make this tangible for the listener. Say, our problem is that exhausted HR managers are drowning in employee onboarding paperwork.
Okay.
We could build a full subscription software platform. That's approach 1. Or approach 2, a simple Slack bot that asks new hires questions. Approach 3, a high-end human consulting service.
Completely different business model.
Right. Approach 4,
Yeah.
a physical printed workbook. Approach 5, an AI email assistant. Approach 6, an outsourced agency model. Approach 7, a lightweight Chrome extension.
Look at how fundamentally different those 7 approaches are. Each one gets a one-page summary with a catchy headline, a sentence on why it works, and a quick, messy doodle of how it looks. You lay all 7 on the table at once.
But I mean, if you have a team of 5 passionate people staring at 7 totally different approaches, that just feels like a recipe for a massive argument.
Oh, absolutely.
The engineer wants the Chrome extension. The salesperson wants the high-end consulting. The marketer wants the Slack bot. How do you objectively choose without someone feeling slighted?
Well, behavioral economics shows that humans are terrible at holding multiple competing perspectives in their heads simultaneously. We just conflate our personal preferences with business viability.
We get attached to our own ideas.
Right. So to solve this, the afternoon of day 2 introduces magic lenses. It's a cognitive tool to separate those perspectives. You evaluate the 7 approaches through 4 distinct lenses, one at a time.
I picture this exactly like sitting at the optometrist.
Yeah.
You look through the little machine, and the doctor flips a lens and asks, number 1 or number 2.
Exactly.
You evaluate, they flip the lens again, number 3 or number 4. You keep doing this until the absolute clearest path reveals itself.
That is the exact mechanism. The 4 classic lenses they use are, first, the customer lens, looking purely at this idea, is it desirable?
Okay.
Second, the pragmatic lens. Realistically, can our current team actually build this quickly?
Right, without hiring 10 more devs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Third, the growth lens. How easily can we acquire users? Or is there a built-in viral loop where users naturally invite others? And fourth, the money lens. What are the actual unit economics? Can we make a profit?
Let's play that out with our HR example. We plot the ideas on a 2x2 chart for each lens. So for the money lens, the full SaaS platform might win big because the margins are huge.
Right.
But then you switch the lens at the optometrist to the pragmatic lens, and the software platform completely fails because it would take a year to build, and we only have 2 developers.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the simple Slack bot might not have massive subscription tiers, but it wins on the pragmatic lens because we can build it in a week, and it wins on the growth lens because it's highly shareable within a company.
By separating the marketer's growth perspective from the engineer's pragmatic perspective, they stop arguing past each other.
That's genius.
The lenses objectively reveal the path of least resistance and highest upside. The decider can look at the pattern across all 4 lenses and confidently select a top bet and a backup plan. You now have a chosen approach that balances human desire with actual business reality.
Okay, so the lenses have revealed the path. The decider has chosen the Slack bot as the top bet. We are at the end of the 2-day sprint. What is the final output that we actually walk away with?
It culminates in a single, elegant, fill-in-the-blank sentence called the founding hypothesis.
Like a Mad Libs.
Basically, it reads, if we help customers solve problem with approach, they will choose it over competitors because our solution is differentiation.
Oh, wow. So if we help exhausted HR managers solve onboarding paperwork with a simple Slack bot, they will choose it over the massive enterprise software because our solution takes 0 clicks to update.
Sounds pretty good, right?
It sounds amazing. It feels incredibly tight.
But I can tell you still have a reservation.
I totally do. Because, look, I'm looking at this from the perspective of someone who actually have to launch a business. At the end of these intense 2 days, we still just have a piece of paper.
Sure.
We have some sticky notes, a manifesto, and a Mad Lib sentence. We haven't actually built a single line of code. I mean, how do we know this isn't just a highly organized, beautifully formatted delusion?
It could be.
Right. We could be completely wrong about the HR managers wanting a Slack bot.
That is the most important pushback you could offer. And frankly, it's the biggest trap of modern startup culture, confusing a confident plan with market reality.
Exactly.
The authors stress that this is a hypothesis, not a guarantee, Every single prediction in that sentence is an assumption screaming to be tested.
But how do we test it without falling back into the trap of spending 6 months coding the Slack bot to see if they like it?
This is where the framework connects to their previous work on design sprints
Yeah.
and, the broader lean startup methodology. The immediate next step after the foundation sprint is moving into what they call tiny loops.
Tiny loops.
You take your founding hypothesis and you run a 5-day sprint to build a high-fidelity facade of the product, a prototype.
So you mock up what the Slack bot looks like, maybe using like click-through screens or no-code tools, so it feels real to the user, even if the backend is just a person manually typing responses on the other end?
Precisely. You fake it, you put that realistic prototype in front of 5 actual target customers, and you watch their faces.
Do they care?
Do they understand it? Do they literally try to click the buy button? The 2-day foundation sprint doesn't replace testing. It ensures you are testing the right strategic hypothesis before you write a single line of expensive code.
It creates this insanely tight system of validation. Days 1 and 2, you define the strategy. Days 3 through 7, you prototype and test.
Yeah.
And if the prototype fails and the HR managers are confused by the Slack bot, you don't cry about 6 months of wasted engineering salary.
Nope.
You just look at your magic lenses, grab your backup plan, maybe the physical workbook, and run another tiny loop of feedback.
Why do you think so many businesses, creators, and products fail to connect?
Because they assume they're right from day one.
Exactly. They assume their initial idea is flawless. They lock themselves in a basement for a year, building it, obsessing over features, and then launch it to an audience that never cared about the core problem in the first place.
It's tragic.
This framework forces you to align your product with actual human behavior and validated needs, and to do it rapidly.
It's really about finding that click moment the book is named after, that moment of emotional resonance where the customer sees the product, their eyes light up, and they say, finally, someone actually understands my problem.
And that resonance, it rarely happens by accident. It happens when simplicity and clarity meet a real-world pain point.
Right?
When you use this structured process to strip away the corporate bloat, the feature creep, the endless meetings, you are left with a pure connection between what you are making and what the customer desperately wants.
Let's summarize the core value of this framework for the listener. Click is really about taking 6 months of chaotic, ego-driven strategy and condensing it into a highly structured 2-day foundation sprint.
Yeah, that's the core of it.
It forces a small team to use silent voting and structured lenses to align on exactly who the customer is, what the bleeding neck problem is, how they will radically differentiate in the market to escape Loserville, and exactly what approach they are going to test first.
It seems like the ultimate blueprint for the age of AI.
Totally. Where your competitive advantage is no longer your ability to build quickly, but your absolute clarity on what to build.
If you are building anything today, whether it's software, a service, or content, you simply cannot afford to skip that foundational alignment. It is the difference between a product that scales effortlessly and a product that silently disappears into the void.
So think about a project you are working on right now. It could be a major initiative at a massive enterprise, a new app, or a side hustle you're running out of your garage.
Whatever it is.
If I forced you to write down your founding hypothesis today, right this second, could you confidently fill in every single blank in that sentence?
Do you really know your customer's most urgent problem? Do you have radical differentiation that actually matters to them?
If you are hesitating, or if your answers are filled with vague industry jargon, it might be time to stop building.
Take a step back.
Run a foundation sprint. Because you don't want to spend the next 6 months coding a castle adventure game that nobody wants to play. Find your click first.